All right, so I thought I'd just do a couple of example problems. These aren't from the homework, I just made these up. And there's kind of a few different types, maybe, that you could say. They're all kind of the same thing, but kind of a few different types of how you'll write your final answer. Okay, so I put the quadratic formula at the top, and then I put down the steps. That's one step, second step, third step, fourth step, kind of in general. There's even kind of a fifth step to get my answers, but these are just general steps. Okay, first thing, and I kind of, some steps I skipped. Hopefully people know by now, got to get things equal to 0 no matter what. Anytime there's an x squared, you got to get things equal to 0. Okay, so this first one, we'll bring the 5x and the 14 over to the left, and they'll change sign. So this 5x, when we bring it over to the left, will become a minus 5x, and this positive 14, when we move it over to the left, that'll be a minus 14. Okay, so now we just, really now we kind of look at what A, B, and C are. So in this case, A is whatever's multiplied by x squared. So since there's nothing there, we'll say A is 1. Okay, B is whatever's multiplied by x, so that's negative 5. And then C is the number, so just negative 14. All right, now we plug these in, and my advice is just keep everything in parentheses. That's my advice. When you plug it in, any numbers that you plug in for any of the A, B, and C, when you plug them into the formula, keep them in parentheses like it's in the formula. At least that's my advice. Okay, so negative, so in the formula, it says negative B. So that's negative, B is negative 5, plus minus, square root. Okay, B again is negative 5, so that's squared. Right, formula just says B squared, minus 4 times A times C. Okay, A is 1 and C is negative 14. All over 2 times A, which is 1. All right, so first step you can see on the upper right is substitute into formula. Next step is to simplify 3 things. And what I mean by that is I mean simplify this to a number, simplify everything in the square root to a single number, and then simplify the bottom to a number. Okay, negative, negative 5. When you have 2 negatives, that makes a positive. Plus minus has to come next. Okay, square root. So this is 25. 5 squared is 25, and we can even do some scratch work off to the side. That's 25. And then 4 times 14 is 56, and it's minus and you have a negative here. If you multiplied these 3 things together, that would be negative 56. So it's really minus a negative 56, which is plus 56. Okay, and if you add those, that's 81, and so that goes here in the square root. And then the bottom is just 2. Okay, next step. So we just simplified to 3 things. Notice you have 3 numbers here, kind of like in those problems where it started out like this. Okay, next thing is simplifying the square root. So this square root here. Okay, it won't happen every time, but this time it's a perfect square. So square root of 81 is 9. So be careful, it's not square root of 9, it's just 9. All right, and then we'll just split it up into two different answers. And one will be, we'll get by doing 5 plus 9 over 2, and the other one by 5 minus 9 over 2. All right, 5 plus 9 is 14. 14 over 2 is 7. 5 minus 9 is negative 4, divided by 2 is negative 2. Okay, so this one had two different answers. Okay, this one, I don't know if you can look back. This could have easily and much easier, it would have been much easier to solve this by normal method, but we're just practicing right now, okay? And sometimes maybe you don't see its normal method. You can always do quadratic formula. All right, next one. Okay, next one's already set equal to 0, so we can skip that step. Let's go right to finding what A, B, and C are. So A is 2, B is negative 7, C is negative 3. Okay, so now we'll plug that in. I should have given more room, but okay. So x equals negative something. Negative, that's going to be what b is. Square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c over 2 times a. Okay, so just plug it in. So the first thing in the formula, the b's kind of go in the first two parentheses. So these are both b's here. Those negative 7, negative 7. Okay, next in the formula, a goes here, c goes there. So a is 2 and c is negative 3, and then a goes in the bottom. That's 2. All right, now we're going to simplify to the 3 numbers. All right, negative 7, just like the last one, that's positive 7. Okay, don't forget the plus minus comes after that, always. Okay, and then remember, you can do scratch work off to the side if you want to figure out what this thing under the square root simplifies to be. So this will be 49. 7 squared is 49. Okay, and then it's going to be 4 times 2 is 8, times 3 is negative 24. So these 3 numbers multiply to be negative 24, but it's really minus a negative, so it's plus 24. Okay, and then that's 73. Okay, so that's what goes in that square root. And then the bottom, 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, next step is to simplify the square root. So you got to simplify this square root. Okay, so different things come up. In the last one, the square root was happened to be a perfect square, and that simplified to be a number. In this case, this square root actually can't be simplified at all. 73 is a prime number. If you have a square root of a prime number, you can't simplify that. And so that would be the way you'd write your final answer. So you don't have to split it up. And that's kind of the main thing I wanted people to see. If this, if you end up with a square root in your final answer, then you won't split it up like we did the last one. Okay, so let's do this last one, kind of off to the side. All right, so this one, just like the first one, isn't equal to 0, so we'll have to add this 5. This negative 5 on the right will become a positive 5 when we move it to the left. So that'll be 5x squared minus 2x, and then plus 5. Okay, so now it's equal to 0. Okay, we can kind of just say what A, B, and C are. That. Okay, next we'll substitute into the formula. Okay, so negative b plus minus square root b squared minus 4ac over 2 times a. Okay, so b is negative 2, so those go here and here, like from the formula. The next two parentheses are a and c. Those are both happen to be 5. And then the last one in the bottom, a, is 5. Okay, negative 2 is a positive 2. Okay, don't forget about the plus and minus next. And the bottom's 10. Okay, now let's simplify this square root. Do maybe scratch work off to the side. Negative 2 squared is 4 minus, and then 4 times 5 is 100. And that's negative 96. Okay, right when we see that we have a negative underneath the square root, we know we're going to have I in our answer somewhere. Okay, so again, off to the side, we'll simplify the square root like we did in class. So try to find the biggest perfect square that goes evenly into that. So definitely 4. Let's see if there's something bigger. I'm going to use my calculator. So I'm going to do 96 divided by 9. That doesn't work. 96 divided by 16. Oh, that worked. That goes in 6 times. Okay. So negative 16 times 6. So we'll split it up. Negative 16 square root of 6. And then remember, square root of 16 is 4. So square root of negative 16 is 4i. So be careful. Don't put negative 4 as the answer. I think that's might be something that is like a common error maybe. Okay, and keep in mind what we did. All we did was simplify this square root to be this. And so now we can take this and replace this square root with it. Okay, that thing that we simplified goes there. Okay, so we know we're not going to split it up since we have an I and a square root. If we had either one, we wouldn't split it up. So, okay, but we can do one more thing. These 3 numbers, so ignore the square root when you're simplifying at this step. Just look at these 3 numbers here. So you can't, you either simplify with all 3 or none of them. You can't just simplify with 2 at a time. It has to be all 3 or nothing. And so these are all divisible by 2. So divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. And then we'll just rewrite it. So that's 1, 2i root 6 all over 5. Okay, again, we don't split up since we ended up with a square root. Okay, and so those are the answers. So just kind of looking back, the reason why I picked these 3. So in one of them, the square root went away because we had a square root of a perfect square, so it just became a regular number. In that case, you'll simplify it to get 2 answers. The next case, we ended up with a square root in our answer that couldn't be simplified, and so you're done whenever that happens. And you don't split it up either. The last one, even after we simplified the square root, there was still a square root left and an I left. Yeah. If there was either a square root or an I, we wouldn't split up. So we didn't split it up, but we could simplify the numbers here. So these 3 numbers simplified, and so we at least did that. So that's the most simplified for that answer. And that's it. So I just wanted to do a couple just in case people struggled.